I think maybe some of the things I'm noticing are people walking away from some of their family values. Specifically, where we're from, we see the promotion of like homosexual marriage and transgenders, and that's becoming so mainstream and accepted and celebrated that people are forgetting where they came from, forgetting what their parents' values and their grandparents' values, and quite honestly, in that many people are walking away from God because they're so confused of who they are.
Here's the very first season and episode of this show. Welcome to gRavity talkS. I'm your host, Rita Saibil.
I'm, my name's Joseph. What's your name?
My name's Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we live here in Nairobi, and we help people learn how to make disciples across Africa. We've been asked the question, what do we think about the current generation? I'll ask you, what do you think?
Thank you.
Yeah.
The current generation, I see a lot of hunger and passion and zeal to make a difference in the world. Um, to want to, yeah, to want to change things that are maybe that are not good. Um, and so I think that's a positive, one of the positive things that I see.
Yeah, and even a restlessness
Yeah.
of youth. We both have youth in our home, and so very eager, full of life, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think maybe some of the things I'm noticing are people walking away from some of their family values. Specifically, where we're from, we see the promotion of like homosexual marriage and transgenders, and that's becoming so mainstream and accepted and celebrated that people are forgetting where they came from, forgetting what their parents' values and their grandparents' values, and quite honestly, in that many people are walking away from God because they're so confused
Yeah.
of who they are.
Yeah. I think also this is this is definitely a generation that has been from the beginning raised on all forms of technology, social media, just being plugged into the rest of the country or the rest of the world. And there's positives to that, I think, but there's also a lot of negatives. And so, yeah, I do think you see a lot more things like anxiety or depression,
Mm-hmm.
or they're having to deal with things, deep things. Like they're having to deal with things that we didn't have to deal with.
Yeah.
I didn't have internet. I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have opportunities with television and things like that. Um, and so it's a lot different. They're exposed to a lot.
Yeah, so I was thinking the smartphone came out when I was like 27 years old.
You're
So
old.
basically, I am
Yeah.
old. Basically, we've lived most of our lives without these devices and things like that and these distractions. So our generation didn't really have that to lean on. In fact, we used to have those phones that had cords on them. And as far as the cord would go, that's as far as you could walk with the phone,
That's right.
right? You dialed like this in a circle.
You're talking in front of your parents.
Some accountability.
Yeah.
I, I also think our generation and our parents' generation were less likely to be transparent
Yeah.
with their feelings, with who they were, especially with things like sin and their habits. Um, they would just kind of hide those away. And we're guilty of that too most times. I think I'm hopeful that a younger generation is more transparent and desiring of that.
Yeah. I also think something I see with this generation, and when I say that, I'm thinking of where I'm from in the U.S., but also been in Kenya 2 years, and so what I've seen here. As far as the church and just faith go, I don't necessarily see a like a mass turning from the faith. I actually have a lot of hope, and there is all the stuff you described that's going on in our culture that's terrible. But there is I think there is a generation that's wanting to follow Jesus, but what they're not wanting to follow is the church, the traditions of the church. And I talk to person after person,
Yeah.
and maybe not the last two generations, and they're just absolutely finished with religion, with fakeness, with whether it's a business, it's not what Jesus intended, and I think they see that, and so that's that genuineness and a desire for something more. Now that can go off into bad things, or it can go off into biblical things. So,
Yeah. Thank you.